Okay, so we're going to construct the Paradox Generator Series, improved version of the Paradox Generator Series, starting with a plank of shelving. This is standard melamine shelving for putting in, inexpensive shelving in your house. This can be found at any home improvement store. This is an 8-inch shelf, and I don't know how much of the length we're going to use, but we'll figure that out later. And so what we're going to do is we're going to mount the ring to this, and then we're going to cut that part off, and then we're going to turn it so that we have the generator, instead of being vertically stacked up previously, we're now going to do it horizontally. This advanced setup is a little bit more difficult to build, but it gives us the easier flexibility when we want to change out the rotors and we want to change out the motor and change out other parts. And it's a little more difficult to align, but right now I'm printing the alignment tool, which will help us align this pretty nice. Okay, the first thing you want to do is get yourself a square, a good quality square, preferably a metal one. And the first thing you're going to do is just draw a line somewhere in the middle of the board. Okay, what we're going to do with this very fine line is we just want to check to make sure this scale is good. So what you're going to do is draw a line and then flip it over and then make sure that that line is represented just as well on this side. And with this tool, it is pretty good. It's very good. Now, don't do this near the end, because near the ends here, they sometimes have little bulges where they go around the corners. And so if you try to do this, and this one side of this sits on the end, the other one doesn't, you might have a little bit of an offset. So do this check of your square over here. The next thing you're going to do is we're going to pick one side of this board, and we're going to make that side our factory edge. And we're going to put little arrows here to make sure that we're always going to reference this edge whenever we're aligning everything. Okay, the reason why is we want to get the best possible alignment of everything, and the board may not be perfect on side to side. If you want to check how perfect your board is, you put your square then on the other side, and I don't know if you can see the line. This board is actually quite good. We could probably use both sides, but let's just stick to one. Okay, so we're going to stick to one side. This is going to be our reference edge for aligning all the pieces of the generator. Now, we're not going to use this whole board. Okay, after you do that, okay, because what we're going to do is we're going to cut off the end piece as the mounting for our armature. And you want to cut off a piece that's 6 inches and have a line halfway down the middle. And then you're going to cut that down the middle, and you're going to put a 1/16 inch drill hole in the middle of that hole, and that's going to serve as our reference point for aligning the rest. Okay, here's the board that's going to hold our ring. You can see there's a 1/16 inch hole in the center. Use a drill press to make that hole to make sure it's perfectly straight through. The absolute positioning on the board is not as critical as it's going straight through. Okay, but try to put it in the center of the board as best you can get it. And you want to at least be 3 inches off the bottom, because eventually this is going to be centered on that. You want just a little bit of clearance on the bottom. Okay, from the piece of melamine, you're going to cut a bottom board that's 2 feet long. The reason why it's 2 feet is because I can't imagine anything we're going to do is going to be any longer than a foot on each side. Otherwise, we'll just have to go back to Home Depot, get another sheet of this stuff, and start anew. So what you're going to do is get this guy started very nearly in the center. You're going to put the square up along the factory edge, and then get your first one on. Don't just screw into the bottom. Don't screw into the top yet. And then line up your brace on the other side very tightly into the square, and get that lined up so that when the thing is pushing it against it, it's perfect. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to put in the 2 bottom screws here, because we're going to have to shim the top screws because these things are poorly made. Now, if you have better squares than I do, please use them. If you can get ones that are not made of steel, to get ones made of brass, all the more better. I'm going with what I got so I don't have to run out to the store to get brass ones. We'll see how these work out. Okay, once you get the ring holder vertical and horizontal to the base, so when you apply this, it's perfect. It looks like a little gap here because there's a Sharpie. Somebody, probably me, used a Sharpie marker. So it looks like there's a gap there. That's just a Sharpie mark. And so then it's vertical. Okay, once you get there, don't bother with the top screws yet. As long as it's shimmed right, to get that, that's good enough for the alignment process, because we're going to take it off again so we can cut the hole so that the ring holder can go through. So right now we just want it perfectly vertical and perfectly perpendicular so that we can do the alignment of the rest of the components. So what we have here is this is going to be the holder for the stepper motor. And if we put it on this side below the hole, and if you take the measurement from the center of this hole up to this hole, it's going to take 1 7/8 inches of spacer to get this thing up to align over that hole. On this side, what we have is the bearing holder, which is going to hold the shaft bearings. And I designed this on the 3D printer so that the top part here is exactly midline through all the bearings. So all we have to do here is measure from the top of this ridge here up to the hole. And this is going to take 2.5 inches to get up to the hole. So while I figure out what I'm going to use for spacing, I think I tried in the past, I used to do stack up 2x4s like this. This is a losing proposition because this general lumber you get at the store is arced and curvy and warpy, and it's just not the best stuff for this precision work. Okay, what you're looking at is the alignment plate, and right now the alignment plate has a 1/16 inch hole in the middle. And what you do is use your 1/16 inch drill bit to suspend the alignment plate in the hole. And the alignment plate has all the diameters of all the things we want to line up to that shaft center, which the alignment plate is going to represent. So what we're going to do is I pre-cut some Azek. Okay, and then we're using playing cards to get the spacer just right to the point where it's just snug in there.